the distinguished alumni who are present here in the front row, members of the faculty, staff members, and dear students. I must begin with congratulating once again the distinguished alumni, and I think another round of applause for them. Looking at them, I'm reminded of two things I heard in the ashram, in our Ramakrishna mission ashrams. One story long before my time. It seems in one of our ashrams, a building was constructed, and a very senior Swamiji, who was a disciple of Ma Sharada, he was an elderly Swamiji, he was invited. Please come tomorrow for the inauguration of the building. And the Swami kept quiet. After the dignitaries had left, the Swami turned to a young brahmachari, a novice, who told me the story. He said, in Bengali, I'll tell you in Bengali and translate for you. Ora amay building dekhate chaye, ami to sadhu dekhte chai. They want to show me buildings, but I want to see good sadhus, good monks. That's what an institute wants. In its the long history, the best products are people here. This is the product of IIM Calcutta, these distinguished alumni here. And we all benefit from their experiences. They set up role models for the rest of us to follow. My subject today is spiritualizing life. But I was thinking, looking at especially the young people here, the perspective that I get traveling to different parts of the world, coming to India occasionally, and right now, for the last 9 years, I am in New York, in Manhattan. The perspective I get is that we are entering into an exciting phase in our history. I often tell people they're in America. They all are like, oh, what's going to happen, Trump, etc., etc., etc. So I say, look, your society is at a sort of a plateau. It'll get a little better or a little worse. I introduced them to the concept of 19-20. 19-20. It'll be a little better or a little worse. But if you come to India, every 5 years you'll find a new India. Infrastructure, economy, but also socially, the culture, internal culture of the people is changing over time. So a new country, veritably, every few years. Before I came here, since I was going to give a talk to IIM, so I asked some people there, especially one young man who works for Bloomberg, unofficial analysis of the situation in India and the world, something I can share with people there. And from what he told me, I'll give you the gist. In one word, what he told me was, Swami, look up Zoho. All of you must be aware of it. I was not all that aware of it, but students here must be doing case studies and stuff like that. So what's the background to this? He said we are already the 5th largest economy in the world, and the way things are going, India is going to become the 4th, maybe even the 3rd largest economy in a few years' time. Tremendous development. How did we get here? He says that one of the drivers of rapid economic development was institutes like this, management colleges, engineering colleges, the IITs, the IIMs, and many, many, many other colleges, and young people like yourself who drove especially the IT boom and provided this enormous resource to the leading companies of the world, especially in America and Silicon Valley, this human resource of English-knowing, highly competent, technically skilled, proficient people who are well-trained and trainable, scalable also. And they drove this massive change, benefiting both the United States and India. However, he pointed out, we're also the largest population in the world, more than a billion, more than China, in fact. And what we have seen so far, those people who have driven this change, they still are a fraction of India's human potential. So there is this enormous potential which we can utilize, which we can channelize. And for that, management skills, which are imparted here in an institute like this and other institutes like this, will be essential. The resources are there. natural resources, especially human resources. But to harness them and channelize them like the thought leaders who are present in the front row, what they have done, we need more of that in times to come. I was listening to especially the stories of entrepreneurship here. And I was reminded of something very interesting, that more than 100 years ago, Swami Vivekananda, writing to one of his disciples, trying to inspire Indians to be entrepreneurial. Remember, colonial India, right here. It was the capital of the British Empire in Calcutta. So he is telling one of his disciples, Sharat Chandra, look, be up and doing, come out into the world. See how the nations of the world are marching. Why don't you go to Benares, get some of the fine silks there, fine cloth there, bring samples, take them, make a bundle, go to the United States, and you sell them there. And you'll make a lot of money, and you'll be rich. Now this person, very typical reaction, he said, who's going to buy all that in this far off foreign land? And Vivekananda says, I knew you would say that. But I know people there, they will buy it. Now why I'm saying this is, more than once in airports in New York, I have come across people, and in other places in New York, I have come across people, Indians, at least twice. What are you doing here? I am bringing samples of cloth and textiles from India. And I said, what do you do? You know, Fifth Avenue, all the leading fashion brands of the world, they're there. They incorporate this. We present it to them, they select, and they incorporate it into the latest fashion styles which you see on Fifth Avenue in Manhattan. I was thinking, my God, more than 100 years ago, Swami Vivekananda had said exactly the same thing. I was told that there is this company now, Zoho, and one gentleman, Vembu. So what he has done is, he has started a new model of IT entrepreneurship in India, based in India, using Indian talents, and scaling it up, not just human resources working for foreign companies, but actually new products for which Indians own the patents, the intellectual property rights, and he has made it a success. A kind of, this is Wall Street, this is Bloomberg and others. They're looking very carefully at this phenomenon now. And this seems to be the way forward. So, as my consultant put it, and informally, he said, tell the young persons there, what got India to this position right now is what he called the Sundar Pichai, the Satya Nadella model, which is wonderful, which has got us to this position now. But what shows the path for the youngsters here is more the Zoho model, the Vembu model, and something like that, not just in IT, but across many sectors, and energizing, channelizing, activating the other sectors of India's human resources, not just the IT part of it. Okay, so this is the future. And what you guys will do with this, nobody knows. You don't know, we don't know. That's the scary part of it. That's the exciting part of it. We will see. Now, in this journey, one of the greatest resources one could deploy is our vast, ancient, and also modern spiritual resources. You will need a lot of strength in this, in the journey, in the life's journey, in the decades to come, starting now and in decades ahead in our lives. And it's not just for the young people there, for everybody, all of us, including myself. Spirituality, what can it do? For young people, at the beginning of your careers, beginning of your lives, it will give you strength. Swami Vivekananda used to say that, confidence. He said that the old religion said the one who does not believe in God is an atheist. And the new religion says the one who does not believe in oneself, in himself or herself, is an atheist. How do you get that faith, that confidence in yourself, that, as one of the distinguished alumni said, if I can do it, you can do it too, and maybe even better, right? So that faith in oneself. Vivekananda said, all the rishis and the prophets and the avatars of the past, they were great, but they are gone now. And now we too must be the rishis and the prophets and the spiritual masters of this age and the future. That kind, they were human beings, they did it, we are also human beings and we can do it too. That confidence spirituality will give you. That strength and that vision of a noble, better life, higher life, spirituality can inspire young people. As you go through life, through the middle part of your life, through career, through family life, the tremendous stresses and the challenges, both at workplace and in your personal life, once again, one will need strength. One will need calmness of mind. One will need vision. That spirituality can give you. It can provide you with that safe harbor, a moment of peace in the midst of a busy and difficult life. And finally, in the evening of life, spirituality will give us fulfillment, a deep sense of peace. Ashtavakra Gita says, life, let this body live for 100 years, let it die today. I am perfectly fine with it. That kind of peace and steadiness and centeredness spirituality can give us. How can it do that? What can we do? I'll share a little bit of it from our ancient texts and also from modern positive psychology, modern management literature, and see what you make of it. One sadhu, one monk, he says, the key to spirituality is the mind, managing the mind. I remember I used to be called to give these talks. Once I was called to a Tata, I think Tata Motors present human resource development event, and it was Quality Month. And the manager who was introducing the event, he said something that stuck to me, and I still remember it today. This was more than 25 years ago. So to all the assembled managers, he said, we want to improve our consciousness of quality, but the only way to improve the consciousness of quality is to improve the quality of consciousness. And I thought, this is what spirituality does. It changes us internally. It teaches us how to manage our internal resources, the resources of our mind. The poet Milton has said, the mind in its own place can make a heaven of hell and a hell of heaven. We just look around. The people you know in your family, in your friend circle, or people we read about in the news, with extraordinary privilege, everything going for them, destroy their own lives. It could be drug addiction, it could be a host of different things. And there are people who come up from extremely difficult circumstances and transform their own lives and the lives of others around them. The mind, by itself, just by itself, it can transform a hell into heaven and can transform a heaven into hell also. So learning how to manage our minds, that is the realm of spirituality. One sadhu, he said, put it this way, Aapko lagta hai, I'll translate, Aapko lagta hai, samsar ke chalte mera man ashant hai. Lekin sach to ye hai, कि अशांत मन के चलते संसार है. You think because of the world, stresses of the job, family life, so many problems, that's why my mind is upset. For samsara, my samsara is making my mind upset. But he says, actually, the truth is, because your mind is upset, you have the troubles of samsara. What does that mean? That doesn't seem to be true, because we think there are real problems. How can you say because of my mind I have samsara? I always give the example of doctors. Doctors deal with difficult cases throughout their career every day. They've dealt with hundreds, if not thousands of people. And all the doctors know they've dealt with this situation, where people with serious medical conditions, they come, but they are calm and dignified and controlled, and they accept the situation and do the best they can. And they'd also deal with patients with relatively minor conditions who break down, nervous breakdown, because of maybe a minor illness. Now the question is, who is suffering more? Who is suffering more? Is it the person who has a serious physical illness but is calm and controlled in the mind? Or the person who may have a relatively minor problem but completely breakdown, mental breakdown? That second person is suffering much more. Suffering is due not so much due to what the world throws at you, but more due to how we react to that. And spirituality helps us to manage and change that reaction. That makes all the difference in the world.